Hey guys, this is your girl Lira, and you're listening to Self Reflection Podcast. Thank you guys for joining me on another episode of Self Reflection Podcast. I pray and I hope that this conversation finds you guys in the best possible state that you could be in. I want to pause right now and just talk about some of the things that's happening in Cameroon before we actually get in our podcast episode because I feel like it would not be right for me to record this podcast episode without talking about Cameroon. So if you have not been following the news that's happening in Cameroon, or you have not been seeing a lot of the things that are happening in Cameroon, President Paul Biya, the president that has been in power for 43 years and is 92 years old, was recently elected again to serve his eighth term in power. And Cameroonians are now protesting. Cameroonians are speaking up against what is going on in the political system in Cameroon. And what they have been facing right now is a lot of brutality from the military side of things. So a lot of Cameroonians are under attack right now. The internet as well has been shut down for several days so that Cameroonians cannot come online to talk about what is going on in Cameroon. So many people have lost their lives, lost their homes. Families are getting displaced. So I want to hold space for what is going on in Cameroon right now. And I want to ask you that is listening to this conversation today, please, if you can post something about what is going on in Cameroon, whatever it's hashtag free Cameroon or hashtag end the political violence in Cameroon, I'll greatly appreciate it. And I know that Cameroon is not the only African nation or African country that is facing this type of political violence in our society today. I know that the same thing is happening in Tanzania right now. The same thing is happening in Sudan, in Congo. With the name, we can continue to go on and on when it comes down to the violence that Africans are facing right now. So please, if you can, I would greatly appreciate it. And it will mean so much to the Cameroonian people for you to be able to speak up for them because I know that many of them cannot do so. Just because some of them are afraid of their lives as well. If you speak up, the government might take you or you might go missing and no one is going to know what happened to you. Thank you guys so much for creating that space, for allowing me to just voice this out. I know I somewhat just put this out there, but I'm hurt, right? This is something that means so much to me. The Cameroon is home. For me, there's so many people that I know that are still in Cameroon, and I just want us to be able to allow them to know that we see them, we hear them, we stand with them. Again, thank you guys so much for supporting Cameroon. Thank you guys for listening to Self Reflection Podcast. I'm happy that you guys are here, and I cannot wait to get into our conversation today. So before we get into this conversation, I do want to ask you, if you have yet to subscribe to Self Reflection Podcast, please go ahead and hit the subscription button. As we look to grow our community here, that would mean a lot to me. But let's not waste no more time. Let's jump into our podcast episode for today. Today we have a guest on Self Reflection Podcast, Alicia. And I will allow her to introduce herself, and I can tell you guys how we actually connect, but after she introduces herself. So welcome on Self Reflection Podcast.
Thank you. Thank you, Lira, for having me. I'm excited to be here. Thank you for all the awareness that you're spreading just all around. I think it's just amazing. So thank you for being that constant voice. I know we just met, but you've become an inspiration to me. So I'm sitting here looking at you in awe.
Oh, thank you.
So thank you. Yeah. My name is Alicia Rupan. I was born and raised here in the Bay Area. I am a first generation American. My family moved here from the Fiji Islands in the 70s. And I'm blessed to have been born and raised here. I have a flower business. I grew up in San Mateo over on the peninsula, and that is where my studio is located. I've been in business for about 6 years, which is crazy to say because it feels like we've all lived maybe like 10 lives since the past 6 years. But yeah, 6 years. I am an online based florist, so arrangements are made like special order, like you order in advance like a day or so, and I customize things for you. We do same day deliveries. We do pickup orders, deliveries. I host interactive workshops, which helps promote creativity. And we do special events like weddings and funerals. But yeah, that's a little bit about me and what I do. And I'm excited to have been able to grow this far in 6 years.
Yeah, thank you so much for sharing that. I met you at her society event with at Liz's event. Shout out to Liz if you're watching or listening. We actually had Liz on Self Reflection podcast as well.
Oh, nice.
That's how I got to go to her society event. But we met at that event and we were sitting right next to each other. I started talking and I asked you, like, what do you do? You told me about your business. And, I felt inspired in that moment because I was like, she's so young, but yet she's had this like successful business that she's building and has been building for a while now. And I was like, it would be so inspiring for you to come on Self Reflection podcast and also like share your journey with young people like myself, young people like yourself that are trying to build a business, especially in today's society, but might feel as if they're stuck or might feel as if they're too young to build a business. So I appreciate you for accepting the invite to come on the podcast. So thank you.
Yeah, thank you. And shout out to Liz as well. I was supposed to be at that event earlier. I did the flower arrangements for it, but I wasn't able to make it in time. I was hosting an event that ran late, and actually you were the one and only person that I had like a full conversation with there. But the energy in the room was just amazing.
Yes.
And so like, yeah, shout out to Liz for creating that. I know that it's not easy to host that. And if I felt that for just being there at the tail end of it, I can only imagine like what it was like throughout that event and all of the great things that I've heard. And yeah, energy is contagious because that was just last week, right? And then here we are now.
Yeah, I know. And it was really a beautiful event. I think I met like at least 3 other women in that event that I feel like I'm going to have them come on the podcast just from that. So, being able to be in a space where you see women, right?
Yes.
And young women
Yes.
that were like either young entrepreneurs or people that have already been in business was really inspiring, especially at least for me. I felt really inspired just being around those women. I might have felt a little bit like out of place, like fish out of water. I guess that's how you could say it, right? Because to me, that wasn't like a environment that I've ever like my natural environment, I guess. But I would say like just being there was a really like a life-changing moment for me in a way.
Yeah. I agree with what you said there
Yeah.
because sometimes it's about like they say that you grow the most when you're uncomfortable. And not to say you were uncomfortable, but it was just like trying something new.
Yeah.
And so like once you go and experience that, it's crazy. You feel like a different sense of growth out of it. So I think that it's a good thing to like be uncomfortable and try new things. And yeah, what you said about just support, like I think that there's always been this stigma. I don't know if that's the right word, but like women kind of like see each other as competition. And I think that is the case
It is a lot
of the time, but it's really special once you find people that you don't feel that way with and you just want to support them because of just their energy or their vibe that they give off. Like you can actually like hold a conversation with them. They're authentic, like, you know, like, but yeah, they say that, what is it? Like, a real queen fixes another queen's crown
Ground.
and just wants each other
Yeah,
to grow, right? And like the world has enough space for all of
I
us. So
agree. I
I think
agree.
good things come out of like, you know, like supporting one another.
I agree. Yeah, thank you. We're gonna get into our conversation a little bit, but I would like for you to share a little bit on how you started your business, and like what kind of drove you to starting that business, and how has that foiled you up to this point?
Okay, so I started, like I said, 6 years ago. This was in 2019,
Mm-hmm.
May of 2019. But my journey with flowers started about 7 years prior to that. My first job out of high school was working at the flower department at our local Safeway.
Yeah.
And of course, like any other little girl, I loved flowers. We always had flowers in the house. I feel like it was a very 90s thing to like give flowers.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, to one another, like just for any occasion, more than it is now. And
Yeah.
I get that the cost of things nowadays, but growing up, that's something that we always did in our house. So
Wow.
I was just like, I really loved flowers, but I never ever thought that I'd have an actual business in with flowers.
Mm-hmm.
But I started there and I learned the things that I didn't know, like how to process flowers, like merchandising, how to make a bouquet that holds together, how to make a bouquet for a vase, like, you know, like
Mm-hmm.
all of those things. And I learned a lot from the people that were working there
Mm-hmm.
for like years, but I also learned a lot through myself because it's actually like a form of art, you know?
Yeah. Yeah.
And so I just followed my own art to it. And that's when I think I really grew. And I had like steady customers that like would always say, I know you're not going to work at Safeway forever, but if you ever start a flower business, let me know. And like I said, I grew up in San Mateo. So a lot of the clients were like local people.
Mm-hmm.
And so a lot of them I did keep in touch with. And I stopped working there. And then fast forward to 7 years later, I don't know exactly what it was that gave me the courage in May of 2019 to
Yeah.
be like, now's my time, because I did think of it multiple times. But I always thought you needed a storefront in order to have a business, but you actually just need the courage to start.
Mm-hmm.
And that itself was a blessing in disguise because, um, like I said, I'm an online based florist, and becoming online based at that time was just the most amazing thing that could happen to me.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I didn't know that the pandemic was going to hit, you know?
Yeah.
But this was a year before um, my grandfather, he and I always talked about one day having a flower shop. He was a
Mm-hmm.
businessman himself. So I feel like me being his granddaughter that should have the most opportunity here because he came here for a better life for us, he always wanted to see that happen.
Yeah.
And so it was 2 days before he passed. I think I, at that point, accepted that he wasn't going to make it. And I did start in his honor. Um, whether he was going to be there to watch it grow or whether he was going to bless it, I don't know where that energy came from,
Mm-hmm.
but it was just the push that I needed. And so I launched 2 days before he passed, and then his funeral about a week and a half later was the first creative design that we did. And at that point, I was really good with doing like bouquets and vase arrangements. I had never done like a creative design for a funeral, meaning
Mm-hmm.
like a wreath. So my mom and I designed like a circular wreath. At
Mm-hmm.
that point, we didn't even know that you could buy the foam, like the shape of it.
Yes.
We sculpted it ourselves, and it was like the
Wow.
most perfect circle ever. And we just designed it just from scratch,
Mm-hmm.
and I was really proud of it, because it was for him.
Yeah.
And um, we had planned to host like a launch party just because it started from like a really dark time. We wanted to end the year on like more of a positive note about the
Yeah.
business and stuff. But unfortunately, 5 months after that is when I lost my uncle to suicide. And so like those 6 months was just traumatic. Like
Yeah.
here I lost my grandfather, I had a new business, and then I lost my uncle to suicide. And I thought I was dealing with grief from my grandfather, but I didn't even know what was to come.
Yeah.
Like dealing with grief from suicide is just like a whole different ballpark. And I think it was the first time we had to like it would like something like that had happened in our community. Not the first time, but to somebody very close. And so at that point, I was about 5, 6 months into business, and my dad's older brother, he's like, so we're going to order flowers from somewhere else, but do you want to do these arrangements? Like, like the casket spray and the wreath. And I had learned so much in those 5 months, and I was like, you know what? My uncle who passed, his name was Nilu. That's his family name that we called him. But he was my biggest fan in everything that I did, and I knew that whether it was good or bad, it was something that he was the one I had to do it for, because he would just appreciate whatever it was. And so we made like 5 wreaths and a huge casket spray. The casket spray was like 3 times bigger than it needed to be, but it was just so beautifully done. And it was just the most amazing time to be able to try that, because 5 months after that, that's when the pandemic hit. And all I did was funerals throughout the pandemic. It was just like nonstop. And it was actually really sad, because I was like, why? I'm a funeral florist. That's what people would call me. But I learned that it was it was just special to be able to flower for people at their final celebration, And at that point, people weren't able to attend services, so they were just like sending their messages of hope where they couldn't go. And I was kind of that bridge in between that. And that gave me a lot of hope during that time to keep going. I look back and I'm like, wow, what if I waited to have a storefront in this economy? Like, I could have been waiting another 20 years, But because I had that, I was still blessed to be able to continue to build a portfolio. And even though all we did was funerals during COVID, after that, when the world opened back up, everybody was having micro weddings. So that was another blessing in disguise, to be able to learn how to do weddings at a small scheme and then grow gradually. So they say everything happens for a reason. I truly, truly do believe that, because just the timing of everything, it was like it was meant to be. And
it's like your grandfather was blessing you.
I do feel that. It's crazy. I get goosebumps when I talk about it, just because divine timing,
I agree. Yeah, wow. That's such a crazy story, And to also cater, or like for your uncle, I don't know if catering is the right word, for your uncle at the same time before COVID happened, and you end up becoming part of so many families, like not like last memory, but also memory that they could cherish forever. I think that's such a blessing.
Yeah, and I truly feel like that was him blessing me in his own way, because just jumping into doing funerals, that's like, if I didn't flower for my uncle and my grandfather, I wouldn't have maybe ever taken that leap of faith to even try funerals. Maybe I would have just only stuck to weddings, because that's where people think that the money is, right? But I think flowering for funerals has more of a little bit of a deeper meaning, and I've enjoyed it in a way. Not to say I look forward to it, but when people give me that honor, I do take it as an honor.
Yeah. And it's going to bring us to our question that I want to talk on here is suicide, because I know your uncle passed away from that. And coming from a Latin background, suicide is not a topic that is being talked on, or is even seen as somewhat of a taboo in a way, right? In many Latin families, conversation around suicide can be surrounded by silence, right? It can be surrounded by silence, a lot of shame. When your uncle passed, how did your family initially respond, and what emotions did you guys like talked about it, or did you guys process it together?
So my uncle was actually the youngest of my dad's siblings. So there's five of them, and he was the baby. And though he was my uncle, this is why he was so special. He was my dad's baby brother, but he was like my older brother.
Oh yeah.
And so it was, coming from the loss of like my grandfather being like a main figure in our family. Now we lost the elder and then the baby.
Yeah.
And it's a terrible feeling, because I think everybody felt that sense of guilt that like, oh, there was something more that we could have did, or why did he do that? Or, like there was a way out of it, and I think that it's easy to say that, but it's easier said than done, I think like really going back and thinking, like putting yourself in his shoes and understanding what mental health is. Maybe he couldn't pull himself out of that time to ask for help. I read a quote that said, it was something along these lines, but it was a person who commits suicide. It's not what they wanted to do. It was just the voice in their head that was like telling them that at that time. And when I took a deep dive into understanding, like, he did need help. Like he was suffering from the loss of his dad. Like, like he was going through it we all were, but his was just a different way. Yeah. And everybody has kind of their own families. And as much as he is our family and we're just a very close-knit family, maybe he felt like a little bit of a burden, or, maybe I think that people who commit suicide, I don't think they think about it at one time. I think that this is something that they go through multiple times in their life. And I think that was the case with my uncle. I think that he had bouts of depression throughout his life. And it started with when he lost his mom. He was in his 20s, and it was really hard for him because, again, he was the baby. And I think any time that he did have those thoughts, he thought of his dad, and maybe that's what held him back from that. Yeah. And I think that this was the first time in a long time that he felt that way, and this time his dad wasn't there. And so, like it helps you understand a lot more when you try to understand their part. You'll never fully understand.
That's a thing, yeah.
And what I've learned is that it's hard to never get answers. You're never going to understand why, how, when, like all of those things. But one thing that I did was we were really, really close. And one of the things that I had to do was make my own scenarios up, like my own answers. And I told myself whatever gave me peace. And I think that my family wasn't really, they were suffering in silence. Like how you said. Yeah. And I would always kind of open up, like if I had a growth, like I came to this realization and it gave me comfort, I would read into it and like this is like this is maybe why he did that, and then telling them, and then it gives them like a different way to like look at it, yeah. But that happens through talking. I feel like it's anything that you're saying at that point, as long as you're talking, it helps. When you hold things inside, that's when nothing at all is going to make sense. Like, who cares if what you're saying, it does not make sense at all, but at least like you're vocalizing it and putting it out there. And that goes in the same way of like crying. Like, if you're like, I would just let myself cry whenever I wanted to, because it was releasing emotion and like anger from inside. And I found myself, if I wasn't doing that, I was really like agitated inside, and just it made it worse. So sometimes when I would cry, because I was crying all the time, every day was like a reset button, like, you know, like remembering again, like why or what happened. And if I cried, I'd get happy because I'd be like, I'm going to feel better now. Like, you know?
Yeah.
But again, I think crying can be looked at as a sign of weakness. And so, like, if I was encouraging people to, hey, you should cry, they'll be like, are you crazy?
Yeah.
But it just trying to help people understand through what's helping you, you know?
Yeah, I think I want to touch on some of the things that you mentioned. Like, a lot of times when someone commits suicide, right, at least like working in this mental health field, a lot of times, like you said, the family takes on the blame of like, what could we have done? You know, but I think that from my perspective and like also some studies, I think that most people that like commit suicide, they think in their mind like they are doing their family like justice somewhat, in a way, like they are taking themselves from not being a burden onto their family. So and a lot of times like people grieve because they feel as if they could have done something. But I think suicide it's one of those things that it's also like rising in our today's society.
Yeah.
Right. I can't remember the statistics, but like I think men commit suicide more than women, at least 3 times or so.
Yes.
So you know, I just want to hold space for anyone that is feeling suicidal in this moment. Like, you don't have to go through the challenges by yourself, right? Like, I know that I can't feel the pain that you're feeling, but I think the people that are in your life, like, they don't see you as a burden, because a lot of times people that are suicidal, they think that they're a burden to their family and friends. But just like to remind you, to reassure you, to let you know that you're not a burden to like the people that love you.
And I know, like, there's always a light at the end of the tunnel.
Yeah.
It just sometimes takes longer to get there, but there is always a light at the end. And I think that sometimes people just need that reminder that, you know, just hold on.
Yeah.
Things will get better. Just taking a little bit of time. But yeah, it's, yeah.
It did get better. And also like loved ones, right? I think always like checking in, just like to make sure, like see how your loved ones are doing. That's also helpful, especially if we know like they really struggle with their mental health in some aspect.
Yeah. And that's also like post-COVID, like, like that's why I think what helped me heal was like during COVID, it was happening so much. So even if I didn't want to think about it, or if I wanted to try to forget, I couldn't, because it was just going on everywhere. Like during COVID, like physicians, doctors, nurses, we were hearing crazy stories of what people were going through, you know? And so, yeah, the timing of all of that was just crazy.
Yeah.
And again, I feel like everything happens for a reason, whether or not we see, there's a good and bad to everything, whether or not we see it at the time. But after, you can reflect on things and be like, you know, like, even though we didn't need this good, but to make sense out of something, you know?
Yes, I agree. You know, as you've grown and healed in this process, right? How have your personality changed in this after like healing from your uncle passing away?
So things that I reflect on about myself, I think that I used to be a super outgoing person, and this is after my uncle's passing and post COVID. I noticed that I'm a little bit closed off a tiny bit. I noticed that I put myself in a little bit like a turtle in a way. I used to love public speaking. It used to come so naturally to me. His funeral was actually the last time that I spoke in front of people. And then after that, obviously the world got shut down. So for about like 5 years, there was like nothing happening. But I mentioned we had a launch party, right, for my business. So it was supposed to be in October, and ironically, that Sunday, it ended up being his funeral instead. And so we postponed it, and I did end the year. We did it in December. We ended 2019 celebrating business, and that was my first time like speaking in front of people, and I felt not myself. Like I felt like, whoa, like that was really hard. Like, and then going into COVID, like I said, I didn't have to speak. And then coming out of that, it's been a challenge to like go in front of people or just like do public speaking and stuff like that. So that's something that I'm still working on. It's affected my, I think that I used to be a really nice person, and I think now I'm a little bit more assertive, but not in a bad way. I think in a way that needed to be, and that comes from the point that I was like my uncle called me Shorty, and so I was kind of like always his go-to person. Like I knew he was always going to be there, and so maybe I became that way because I needed to find my own voice in that. So those two things that I shared, they might sound negative, but those are my positive outlooks out of it. You know? Because you, like we talked about, you have to be uncomfortable to grow, right?
Yeah. And do you still miss him? And how do you cope with that when you feel his like that emptiness?
Yeah. So it's crazy. I feel him around like a lot. I don't think I was ever as close to anybody as I was to him. My grandfather as well. But like I said, there was a lot of peace I made peace with, he's lived a full life and he was going to pass. But when something like suicide happens, it's unnatural. Yeah. So it's like, this was not supposed to happen. This was a man that he could have lived his life. He was supposed to be at my wedding. He was supposed to see my kids. Like, these are the things we talked about, and not having that closure, never getting to say bye. Those things were just really hard for me. He was on our family plan, and I kept his number for almost 2 years, and I used to text it all the time.
Wow.
I did what I had to do to make myself feel comfortable. But those are the like little weird things that gave me peace, and that's what helped me.
That was a really good coping mechanism.
Yeah.
Like, really good, because even though he didn't respond, there was still that emotional connection that when you text him, it felt as if you were sending the message to him.
Yeah. And wherever he is, like, he'll get it,
Yeah.
I think I cried the most the day that I realized that it's time to disconnect the number, and it was like about two years later, and my dad never said like cancel the number, nothing like that, and he didn't even understand what was happening, but it was just, I did that when I was ready. And so those are things that like we never think about, right?
I'm just gonna add on to that what you said right now. With another follow-up question is, what are some of the things that you did for yourself to cope with his loss, with you grieving? Because what you mentioned right there is really good,
So there's times that I really feel him in ways that like I could be, something will happen and then I hear his song on the radio, or I could be somewhere and something happens.
Yeah.
And it's energy, like energy is everything. And but I do believe that it helps when you think that, hey, he's still there, it's his way of communicating, you know. So that's something that really helps. Like at my wedding, I think that was the hardest for me. And my mom had given me a little hair clip, and it was a butterfly that you clip in your hair, and it said love always Aja Aji and Nilu. So Aja Aji means fraternal grandparents. So she was honoring them, and then my uncle Nilu. And when I got ready, so I had my makeup, hair done, and then they came to put the clip in my hair, and the photographer's taking a picture behind me, and my cousin was there, and my cousin was my man of honor, and it was such a crazy moment because he caught it on a video.
Yeah.
But as they took a picture, when the photographer looked at it, they were like, "Oh my gosh, it's." The butterfly was like, the light was like shining like right on it at that point. And like, I was like, what? Let me see. And I think everybody instantly felt like goosebumps. Like because it wasn't like we took multiple shots of it. It was just like the only time we did that.
Yeah.
And it was crazy. And so I think, see, that wasn't just me that felt it. There was like 2-3 other people in the room, and they felt it. And so it's crazy. But I think that that also comes along with being open to these messages. Some people, you probably get messages, but you're not. Maybe you need to like be a little bit more open to like receiving.
Yes.
Because they are there. Like things happen for a reason. Like numbers, like thing. You know, like there's always something. The universe speaks. That's what it is. And so. Yeah, just things like that. It gives me a lot of comfort. We continue to honor him. We celebrate his birthday every year. I accepted that people go through seasonal depression during the holidays. And so I accepted that my seasonal depression comes between like October and September. It's really heavy for me because October was his death anniversary, and then September is his birthday. And crazy as heck, because the San Francisco, they do the suicide prevention walk, and it lands on his birthday his birthday weekend every single year.
Wow.
And it's just crazy how that happens. And his death anniversary is October 8th, and October 10th is World Mental Health Day. And so just seeing things and all of like, you know, it's just a really heavy time. And so I've accepted that, and I honor that, and that's what's helped me grow. My family and I do the walk every year. Every year, besides last year, because I was busy with wedding planning, and I need to make up for it this year, but we come out with a new shirt in his honor. So we have a series. It's called it's the Nilu series, but it's an N and then a semicolon, which stands for solidarity for mental health, and LU. That's the design. And so we always, every year, it's like a different design, and we wear those shirts and go out there and do the walk for him. On his birthday, we cut brownies for him and just sing to him wherever he is. I think that that's what he would have wanted us to do, is just continue to celebrate. Yeah.
Yeah. How are you coping?
See, I'm feeling emotional right now just thinking about it, because for you to ask these questions, sometimes I forget all of the things that we're doing, because it's become a part of like just living. And like I said, I feel like it's not just me, but everybody, like before it's 6 years, we've all been living like crazy lives. Like everybody has shed and become who they are now, right? And so just looking back and reflecting on like all of these things that we do, I don't think I've done that. So thank you for
Yeah.
asking me these questions and making me reflect.
Yeah. Oh, I can feel like your energy,
Yeah.
and I, I'm sorry if I'm like
No, no,
bringing up
no.
any
No,
old wounds or anything like that as well.
not at all. I'm happy to talk about it. And I think that what happened is definitely sad, but he would be happy to know that talking about it makes a difference. And talking about it so that it helps people. Sometimes you don't know what we don't know what people are going through. And maybe, like they say, like you don't know, your smile makes somebody's day. So then that's a part of our series. It's actually called "It's Cool to Be Kind." I should have brought you a shirt. I'm sorry, but
okay.
when we make our new series, I was behind on that this year. But yeah, that's something that my uncle always taught me, was that even regardless of what he was going through, when he experienced his bouts of depression through his life, he was never mean or rude. He was the happiest person all the time. And they say that the happiest people hurt the most on the inside.
Yeah.
But he was just really extra kind to people. And that's one of the things that he taught me, that it's cool to be kind. He was always doing things to, like, he would love to feed the homeless. He used to, like, just drive around the peninsula, like, passing out food. And so just those little things that I carry on that I did with him throughout my childhood. And
Yeah.
yeah.
Thank you for sharing, by the way. Yeah, we're going to move into grief. I know we've been talking about grief here. When you think about grief, what does it mean to you beyond just losing somebody that you care about, and also a transformation that they're in?
I think that I've learned that grief is just love.
I love that.
Yeah, they say that grief is love, that just it has nowhere to go. It's just, that's why you feel it so heavy. And so I found that grief comes in waves. You're never going to be over it. But it's just all about learning how to ride the waves and, doing what you have to do to make it bearable for yourself. That's kind of like how I feel I've healed from it. I never ignore the wave. When it comes, I let it come. I try to be optimistic about it. And obviously that didn't happen overnight. It was a process. So just going through that process, fully accepting things. And like I said, a lot of it is whatever makes sense to you. It doesn't have to make sense to everybody else,
Yeah. Before we continue this conversation, I want to pause in this moment and hold space for anyone else that is grieving out there. Whether if you're grieving a loved one, a job, a pet that you have built an emotional connection with, a house, whatever you're grieving, right? I want to hold space for you. And I hope that you do find supportive people that you can express these emotions or those emotions that you're feeling. And, know that you're not alone in the journey as well. And like she said, right, however you need to process the emotions for yourself, go ahead and do so. And don't feel ashamed or bad in the way that you're grieving, because we all feel emotions in different ways and we all grieve in different ways. Also, in this moment, I want to ask you, if you have yet to subscribe to Self Reflection Podcast, please go ahead and hit the subscription button. I appreciate it. It will help us grow here on Self Reflection Podcast. It will help message and conversations like this find people that might be going through a similar struggle, right? Because sometimes when you are grieving or when you lost a family member or a friend, from suicide or by suicide, it can feel isolated. You can feel as if no one else can understand you. So by you subscribing to this platform and sharing this conversation, it might just find somebody else that might be feeling isolated in this moment. Thank you again for joining us on Self Reflection Podcast. We're going to get back into our conversation here. The next question I have here for you is, grief often changes the way we see ourselves and the world, right? How did your grief reshape your identity or your relationship with your own soul?
I feel that's a really good question, actually. I feel that I didn't know grief before this at all. Even through my grandfather's passing, because like I said, I had made peace with it because he lived a great full life and he passed with all of his loved ones surrounded by him, and that doesn't even happen to a lot of people.
Yes.
So the fact that, I mean, I miss him, and that's like, all the normal stuff. But dealing with suicide was just way different.
Yeah.
And that's when I felt it really, really heavy. And I think a part of it became, I didn't want it to happen to anybody else. And I never, not that I feel like I was ever a person that could cause somebody to be sad or anything like that, but I just really wanted to be the most helpful person if I can be, because like I said, it's cool to be kind. That became a part of our identity, my business identity, my identity, and something that I'm just really passionate about. And I think that's what's helped my business grow so much, is just the overall blessings that I've had, and that from the people who have passed, I strongly feel their presence. But it's given me a new identity. Like, I think I mean, I was in my 20s when he, like mid 20s when he passed, but I feel like I grew the most through my grief, because I just have a whole different understanding of the world in good ways and bad, because now I know how cruel the world really can be. I mean, I've lived a very blessed life where I didn't have to see the things that go on in other countries all around the world. We're very privileged.
Yeah.
And that was this was one of the first traumatic things that I had to see and go through. There's people in the world that they experience this all the time, and so I just wanted it to be, I felt like at the time I was growing a lot, and not everybody around me was growing at the same rate, which was fine.
Yeah.
But I just wanted to be more of an inspiration if I can be, I could do it if she could do it, And actually through the past few years, sharing my story and talking about them, I've learned how many people that it has impacted. And so grief became a large part of my identity.
Yeah.
And in a good way. That's how I look at it now.
Yeah. Thank you again for sharing. We're going to jump into depression here. I know depression it's a big topic in our society today, and a lot of young people go through depression. I think at least, I want to say, 70-something% of people that go through depression do not get support in this space.
Yes.
It's a huge number of people. And when it comes down to depression, and I know the night that we met, I think we talked about depression and how you went through your own depression and stuff like that, which was kind of interesting how we got into such deep conversation, because we talked about your uncle passing as well, in such a small time. And like you mentioned earlier, energy is such a real thing, right? And I felt like that was the energy that you and I felt to be able to just talk about such heavy topic,
Yes.
meeting for the first time. Depression can feel like a shadow, right, over our soul. What has your shadow taught you?
So people, when they're going through depression, they cope in different ways. For some people, it leads to a huge common thing that it leads to is addiction.
Yes.
And I'm very thankful that it never led me to that. And I became very, I think I was just because that was a part of something my uncle was fighting in it with his mental health issues. And for some people, it's alcohol. For some people, it's drugs. For some people, it's a relationship.
Yeah.
And addiction comes in many, many forms. And so I was very thankful that was something that I didn't have. My depression was more like my life flipped because the people that I saw on a daily basis weren't there anymore. Now I had a business that I didn't have before. So I had to create a new life in a way. And along with that, it helped so much, but it also, I felt guilty at times because it was kind of like, I'm not that I'm forgetting, but like I'm leaving them behind in a way, you know, even though I know that that's what they would want for you. But it was just all a constant cycle.
Yes.
Like, you know, like you have, and it was just, but that's life, right?
Yeah,
like it's just, you just keep going. Like, so, yeah, that was I really poured my sadness and my depression into my business, and it helped me bloom in a way, because during that time everybody was going through it. And it brought so much joy when I would like deliver flowers, like, and it was somebody's birthday and they were by themselves on their birthday because of COVID, but like you were it was a contactless delivery, but from 6 feet away they had the fattest smile on their face, and that helped so much, you know, just like because you were that bridge of communication. That's actually my favorite part about what I do is delivering flowers, because like it really, you could see how it brightens people's day. And that's what I like to like push out with my business, is that flowers are great for mental health. Like, so just the overall, like how everything happened, I feel very fortunate and very lucky, because truly happened for a reason for me.
I agree. As we get close to our conversation here, how can we begin to speak to our depression instead of running away from it, from your experience?
I think that the first thing is just holding yourself accountable. A lot of times, and in brown culture and people of color, people will run from that and just be like, I'm not sad. I'm not depressed. But you have to just see it and be like, yes, I am. And that's the first step. And then what can I do to make it better?
Yeah.
Or what can I try to do to make it better? Like, and it starts with little things, you know? But the first thing I would say is just holding yourself accountable and admitting that, yes, I do feel depressed, but what can I do to make it better? They say that like if you tell somebody that you don't feel well, they're gonna everybody will like be like worried, like, or you know, like, oh, what's wrong? But if you tell somebody like you're like, if you get physically hurt, people will run to sign your cast, right?
Yeah.
And if you tell somebody like my brain is hurt, they're gonna run the opposite way, because they're gonna be like, what does that mean?
Yeah.
Like, that's who talks like that, right? But there's nothing wrong with that. It's true. Your brain is a machine. Like, it's okay if your brain isn't always 100%, you know?
Sure.
But it just, what do you need to do to make yourself feel full? And for everybody, that looks different. And that's the beauty of life, right? Like, you do what you have to do to fill your cup. And for me, that became, like, business became a big part of it. But I started doing things like my own forms of self-care that like journaling or, going to the beach. This is all during COVID where there wasn't very many options.
Yeah.
But I noticed that those things were the things that brought you joy. And though I was making people happy through the art of flowers, I was also understanding that energy is everything and you can't fill from an empty cup.
Yeah.
And so if I'm happy, my art will be good and
Yes.
people will be more happy.
Yeah.
And so, yeah.
Thank you. I'm going to do a quick self-reflection moment as we come close to our conversation. What are you most proud of?
I would say just being an entrepreneur and being like not your parents, but just often you're told that if you were to tell somebody that like, oh, I'm going to start a business now, people would just shoot you down. But I don't know. I just really believed in myself and pushed myself to that. Though it comes with challenges, I became my own cheerleader and pushed myself throughout that time.
Yeah.
And I am actually really, really fortunate that my now husband is as supportive as he is, because he became a huge part of my healing as well. I say that my grandfather was my best friend and my uncle was my number one fan, but in everything that I did.
Yeah.
And then when he passed, when they both passed, my husband very gradually took on both roles without making it seem like he did that. But he was a big part of helping me heal and letting me know like it's okay and hey, you can do this. And so I feel that having a supportive partner overall has helped my journey as well.
Yeah, I love that. Another self-reflection question is, what would you want your 90-year-old self, if you were looking into the future, to tell your now self?
That's such a good question too.
Oh, a piece of advice your 90-year-old self would tell your now self.
When I'm 90, I don't want to regret that I didn't do anything. Like I hope to live very confidently to say that, yes, I've tried everything that I wanted to try and I hopefully became successful out of it. I just never want to regret not doing something. So I know it's not a piece of advice, but I guess that's a wish.
Yeah, it's a real one.
Yeah.
I know, that's how I feel. I don't want to regret anything.
Yeah.
That's why. Like if my mind tells me to do it, I'm doing it.
Yeah.
Like that's it.
And I feel that it wouldn't come to your mind if you weren't capable of doing it.
I like that.
Yeah. That's motivation for us.
Yeah, keep going. Next self-reflection question is, when it comes down to self-love, how do you show yourself love?
I think that that's something that I'm still learning because it's easy to overwork yourself and treat yourself like a machine.
Yeah.
So in recent times, that's something that I've reflected on that I need to be better with. But one of the things is always speaking to yourself very kindly. I think that matters a lot. So that's how I've always been. But I think maybe the past couple months, it was some time ago, but a few months ago, I caught myself saying, oh, I'm so stupid. And then I got mad at myself for saying that because I never talk like that. And then I reflected, like, why did I say that? Like, I can't say that.
Yeah.
Like, even if I feel that way, like, feeling it is one thing, but once it comes out of your mouth, it's like a whole different thing. So, yeah, that's one of the things I don't want to just be kind to yourself because you're all you got.
Yeah. I agree. And what is one way you show yourself love?
I tell myself that I'm proud of myself these days, and I wasn't one to do that.
Yeah.
But it's like I said, the way that you speak to yourself is everything, and I've noticed myself saying that a lot. So yeah, this question about like self-love, that's been one of the things that I'm working on. So thank you for asking that, because it made me reflect.
Yeah. Thank you. Again, thank you so much for coming on to Self Reflection Podcast. I hope
Thank you for having me.
Yeah. And thanks for, sharing your journey with us. I have had over 200 or so plus conversation on this podcast. I don't think I've ever I've felt people's empathy, and like, I won't say I felt their pain, but I felt like, some of the emotions that they're feeling. But I don't know if like I've ever like helped myself from like crying. And when you were sharing, I felt myself like wanting to cry, but I like held I like kind of just held the tears in. And I really appreciate you for being so vulnerable with us. And
thank you for making me feel comfortable to share.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, because that was, such a powerful story that you share with us, and I appreciate it. And I also want to talk about crying because, I almost cried, and you talked about crying a little bit on the show. Crying is such a healing mechanism, right? And not only, I also want to say, like, scientifically proven, like, it has been shown that when you cry, your body like release hormones that like make you feel happy again.
Happy tears.
Yeah. Like, so it's good to cry, it's good to cry. Like, so I want to encourage us to cry if we have to cry, because that's how we actually become happy. And they say like people that cry the most are oftentimes the people that are happy.
Yes.
Or more happy. So yeah.
I agree. And yeah, that's a great thing to put out there for people, is that it's okay to cry.
Yeah.
It's good.
It feels really good. When I cry, it's not a pretty cry. I'm ugly cry. So it feels really good to cry. So I want to tell you, if you need to cry, go ahead and cry, because it's healing. It allows you to release stuck emotions that are in your body. It allows you to release depression, release anxiety, right? Even fear, it allows you to release all of those things, because when you bottle it up, it can actually get stuck in your body, and it can become physical, right? You can have like little balls in your body, and that's how people build up stress in their neck and tightness in their entire body, right? Because they're just like bottle up the emotion and they keep it in. So go ahead and cry if you need to bust one. And if you need a crying buddy, I offer myself. I'll cry with you, for real. Thank you again so much for joining us on Self Reflection Podcast. If we want to find you on social media, how can we connect with you?
So our Instagram handle is Sweet Tea Flowers. It's SWEETTEA, and then flowers FLOWERS.
Yeah. And Instagram?
That's Instagram.
Your Instagram?
Yes.
And okay. And you have your website is on your Instagram?
Yes.
Okay.
It's sweetteaflowers.com.
Okay, sweet.
Yes.
Again, guys, we're going to put her Instagram, social media, and her website on the description part of this conversation. If you are in the Bay Area, or do you supply outside of the Bay Area as well?
For now, we're just
doing
local to the Bay Area.
Okay, if you're in the Bay Area and you want some flowers, you want to send some flowers to your girlfriend, your boyfriend, wink, wink up there, your wife, go ahead and, reach out to them. The link is going to be in the description part of this conversation. And also before we head out, I do want to say again, thanks to Liz for inviting me to the Heart Society event, because that's the only reason why we are having this conversation right now. So I appreciate it. Again, before we head out, I want to say, if you have yet to subscribe to Self Reflection Podcast, please go ahead and hit that subscription button so that we can continue to grow. Also, follow us on our YouTube page if you have yet to subscribe to our YouTube channel as well. That's where we have all of our full full content, like the full length of the episodes, that's where we have the video on there. So go ahead and follow us on our YouTube. It's just Self Reflection Podcast by Lira Ndifon. And then if you want to connect with us on our social media, you can follow me at Lira Lira_NDIFON, and our social media page is Self Reflection Podcast. Thank you guys again so much for joining me on this conversation. I genuinely appreciate your time. I know time is something that, you can't get back once you give it to something. So for everyone that's listening to this conversation, I appreciate you guys. And for my family members and friends and my community back in Cameroon and abroad, I want to hold space for us one more time. And I am praying for every single one of us, and for all the young youths in Cameroon, I want you to remember that you still have a future ahead of you. This moment in our political system does not define who you are and does not shape your future. You still have a lot of life to live. Thank you guys again so much for joining me on Self Reflection Podcast. I genuinely appreciate y'all. I hope you guys have a blessed day. Take care of yourself, love yourself, be kind, and be gentle with yourself. Until next time, you're listening to Self Reflection Podcast, and this is your girl, Lira. Ta-da!